much, Sally. The keynote speaker for this afternoon is Michael Sanders, and he serves as a national speaker, trainer, and consultant for numerous school, juvenile justice, and child welfare systems. With 20 years experience in both public and private human service systems, he brings his enthusiasm for children and families in a humorous and exciting presentation. As a speaker and trainer, Michael travels extensively, motivating teams, inspiring families, and educating professionals to be and do their best. As a former juvenile probation officer, child welfare social worker and supervisor, and adolescent therapist, Michael's career has focused on adolescent issues. Therefore, his passion has been developing a youth involvement initiative with child welfare practice. His desire is that every adult become a fan of a teenager. This pursuit has given him the title, the Teen Whisperer. Present to you, Mr. Michael Sanders.
Keeping with that Southern hospitality, she said Illinois with an S. So we're just going to say bless her heart. Wow, it is really, really good to be here. I am so happy and excited to be a part of this conference with you guys. How many of you guys are fans of teenagers? How many of you like teenagers? Raise your hands. Now, there are a lot of wonderful programs, evidence-based practices that are coming up. If you think about it, there's the Unpacking the No work. A lot of the work that I get to do around the country with helping young people to process and understand what permanency is about. There is Darlene Henry's 357 model, helping young people to prepare for this concept that we call permanency. Well, there's a couple things that if we don't think about and do, then none of those strategies are really going to be super effective with our young people in assuring permanency. I believe you guys are the right people at the right time with the right purpose to assure that every single young person reaches permanency. And that's where it brought all of us together. I spent a lot of my practice career working actually within the therapeutic foster care arena. I was a therapeutic social worker, and then I was also a therapist for a therapeutic agency in Columbus, Ohio at the time. So the question is what can we do for those children? What can we do for young people who are struggling and have issues because they've been abused, neglected, sexually victimized, separated from their family? We've given them therapeutic foster care, but one thing that we haven't given a lot of them is the concept of permanency. Is a forever family. Is someone who will be with them through the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows of transitioning into adulthood. So what's next? How can therapeutic foster care create the next thing that will assure every young person has permanency? Young person, because my question to you is, how many kids is it okay that we fail? Right now, 85% of kids who age out fail. Is that an okay number? What about 50%? What about 25%? 18? 7? 3? What's acceptable? And I think you guys are here with me, that it's not okay that we fail any kid, that we should assure success in every single kid. So our first thing we have to do is we have to redefine what is success. When are we successful? And in my book, I'm not sure that we're successful if we leave one kid behind. If one kid doesn't have permanency, if one kid experiences those terrible outcomes that we talked about, I'm not sure that we're successful. If you were a teenager, please stand up. Some of y'all get to go to church, so I'm going to give y'all some church-like activities. Now look around, because people who are sitting will lie to you about some stuff too. Commissioner Katz, I am shocked and appalled that you lied here. How many of you, when you were a teenager, ever used, and you notice my daughter didn't stand up, my daughter she was like, look, I might have been born that night, but it wasn't last night. We're not going to have some conversations on the way back home. If you ever used profanity when you were a teenager, you cuss somebody up one side and down the other, please stand up. And I want you to say this. I want you to say, nah, 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 nah. please stand up. Differently, our perspective has to change. Our perceptions of what young people have to change. Or the behaviors that we experience as a parent, as a social worker, as a therapist. So we've got to start looking for the strengths. We have to pull out those strengths. Now, let's think about this. Because sometimes young people are hard. I've got a couple things I want to kind of share with people. Rubik's Cube. Teenagers are sometimes like a Rubik's Cube, aren't they? Sometimes they're hot. Sometimes they're cold. Sometimes it's a challenge to figure out which way to go. Sometimes they're like the all red side, burning with anger. And sometimes they're all mixed up and we really kind of struggle in trying to figure out, how do I make sense of this particular young person? One of the things I've noticed is that when you begin to identify and use those strengths and helping that young person to recognize what it is, I like to say it this way: whatever you do, love it so much that you would do it for free. But do it so well that people would have to pay you for it. We all have weaknesses. We all have growth areas. The issue and the difference between us and the young people that we work with is that we get to capitalize on our strengths. We get to focus and stay on our strengths. We get to have people to see that, and everybody sees it. We write it down in our files, and then we tell everybody. Even when we have confidentiality, we make sure that every foster parent knows that this kid did this, that, and the other. Which I'm not saying isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you only tell them that aspect of it, then they're going to view and they're going to expect that young person to respond like that. And when they expect that young person to respond like that, they're going to treat them that way. That is then going to cause them, you know what it is, self-fulfilling prophecy. I know that you're just one person, and there's so many other competing priorities. Do what you can, because each and every one of these young people are counting on people just like you to ensure that their work by this world is recognized. And they can't do that without the love, the support, and the continuity of a family. That is, ladies and gentlemen, our job. Thank you very much.
I'd like to give Michael another hand of applause. Michael, I'd like to thank you for challenging us to take the lead, to encourage our kids, and to believe in them, and to realize that